everybody. Okay, today I'm going to be making some Italian zucchini boats for dinner, and I thought you might like to have the recipe too, so I'm going to share along with what I'm cooking. I've already browned 2 pounds of ground meat. Tonight I'm using 1 pound turkey burger and 1 pound grass-fed beef. You can use whatever kind of meat you want to use. I'm just using what I know I have on hand and what I need to use. And then I'm going to flip the camera and show you what's in my pan right now. So right now, I'm sauteing up 1 bell pepper, and you can use any color you like. I just have one I pulled out of my garden. It was like half green, half red, and half of a diced onion. You can use more onion or less onion. We don't like a ton of onion in our stuff, so I usually tend to go on the less path. And so while that's sauteing, let me show you my zucchini over here. So I have, I'm using 4 zucchini, and I have them out. Now you don't have to use that many, and you can, cut this recipe down if you want. We just have a large family. I have 4 boys, 2 of which are teenagers, so I tend to make larger portions. But I want to show you closely the zucchini that I got. You want to make sure that the zucchini you buy is big enough that you can hollow it out to be able to stuff. And when you're hollowing it out, I just use a spoon and scrape the filling out. Make sure that you leave enough on the ends when you hollow it out, so that way your filling doesn't come out of the ends. Okay, you can see that the onions are starting to get a little translucent. So at this stage, it's not completely done, but it's almost done. So I'm going to add my garlic in there. Garlic, I tend to add a little bit later because especially if it's minced garlic, it will brown faster, and I don't want to burn it. So I'm adding it a little later in the process. And this is the kind of garlic I use. I just use this kind I get at Sam's. I don't use like fresh garlic. I mince right up myself because honestly it's just a time saver. And you can use whatever kind of garlic you want to use. That's just what I use. Okay, now it's time to put in the part of the zucchini that I scooped out from the middle. So as you can see, my onions are about translucent, my garlic is browning, my peppers are getting soft, so now I'm going to add in the zucchini innards. And I'm going to let this cook for probably 2 to 3 minutes just to soften up the zucchini a little bit, so that way it'll kind of meld and cut up, break apart a little more easily within the mixture, because I don't want to have these big chunks when I go to stuff it in my zucchini boats. I do want to add that by all means, if you have really picky eaters in your house and they don't like chunky food, which I had a child like that for quite some time, before you add the zucchini pieces back in, feel free to throw them in your blender or food processor and just kind of shred it up, or make it so it's a lot smaller pieces and it's easier to blend in. And as long as the zucchini's in your mixture, it doesn't matter whether it's chunky or smooth. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes and the zucchini is cooked down a bit, and I've taken my spoon and kind of broken some of it up. Now I'm going to take 2 cans of diced tomato, 2 of the smaller 14.5 ounce cans, and I'm just going to dump them right in. Okay, now that I've got my tomatoes all stirred in, I'm going to take my herbs. I just happen to have an herb garden, so I'm using fresh herbs. I'm using fresh basil, thyme, and oregano. So I have 2 teaspoons of each chopped up. If you don't have fresh herbs, it's no biggie. Just use dried and cut that in half. So if you ever see a recipe calling for fresh herbs and you only have dried, make sure to cut it in half, because dried herbs are a lot more potent than fresh herbs, or vice versa. If you have fresh herbs on hand and it calls for dried, just double the fresh, because the fresh herbs are not nearly as potent as the dried ones. Okay, now that you have everything mixed in the pot except for the meat, I haven't put the meat back in, I'm going to let it all simmer on low for about 15 to 20 minutes just to give the herbs some time to break down and really flavor the sauce. Okay, so the sauce is finished simmering and I've put the meat back in the pan. Now I want to let you in on a little secret. Earlier in the video I mentioned how I did kind of have had a picky eater who doesn't like chunky stuff in his food. And my solution to that is to take the mixture and put it in my blender and puree it up. So If you have a blender or a food processor, just put it in there and blend it up until it's smooth. Just be really careful because the mixture is really hot, so I use a ladle to ladle it in there. And then you have to be super careful when you pour it out back into the pan because it's really hot. And then I'll just stir this all up. Okay, so I've stirred all this together, and I did want to mention that, you know, if you don't have any objection or no one in your family objects to having chunky onions and bell peppers and the zucchini parts inside the sauce, then, you know, you don't have to puree it at all. That's just a little step I added in to make it more friendly for my family. Now I'm going to take this mixture and I'm going to stuff my zucchinis. Okay, so I found the easiest way to put the filling in my zucchinis is to put the pan right up next to the mixture pot and use a ladle. This is the size I have, but you can use a soup ladle or anything that'll be easy to put your mixture in and kind of hold it until you can put it into your zucchini boat. And then you just kind of pour it on in. Okay, so I covered the zucchini boats in tin foil and I cooked them in the oven at 350 for about 25 minutes. Now I'm going to take them out, take the foil off, and then I'm going to put some cheese over the top of each boat. I have a mixture here of about 1 cup mozzarella, half a cup of Parmesan, and I got some, I put about 1 teaspoon of dried parsley in there. I didn't have any fresh, so I put dried in there. And you're just going to take about a spoonful, like so, and just sprinkle it over the top of each one. And then once you get all of them kind of covered the way you like, pop it back in the oven for about 5 to 7 minutes, and just until the cheese is kind of melted over the top. All right, and here is the finished product. Yep, these are Italian zucchini boats, and we're hoping that they taste as good as they look.